yo. פה אנחנו גרים.
What if the biggest story in the Middle East right now is not what is being shown, but what is being deliberately hidden? A senior foreign media manager inside Israel admitted on record that their coverage has been, quote, not truthful. Millions of Israelis are sleeping in underground shelters. Almost none of it is reaching your screen.
The reality of living in Israel.
Iran has now deployed a projectile so fast that standard defense systems have near zero time to respond. And a school in southern Iran became the center of the most debated humanitarian incident of this entire standoff, yet most of the world has barely heard about it. Today, we uncover all of it.
ما تو مدرسه بودیم بعد صدای اومد شبیه باد شدید بود همه معلم‌ها جیغ زدن فرار کردن منم ترسیدم همراه معلمم رفتم تو کلاس بعدش دیگه بیهوش شدم.
Welcome to Geo Earth. What you are about to watch is not breaking news. It is structured fact-based geopolitical analysis built entirely from verified, publicly available information. In this video, we examine 4 layers of this situation: the information gap inside Israel, the technology behind Iran's latest response, the Minab school incident and its international fallout, and the geopolitical deadlock keeping any resolution out of reach. No sides are taken here. Only facts are examined. By the end of this video, you will understand not just what is happening, but why so little of it is making it onto your screen. Let us start with the structure of information control, because this is where the story truly begins. Since this escalation started, Israel's military censorship directives have been significantly tightened. Foreign journalists received formal instructions prohibiting live broadcasting during air raid sirens. They were restricted from filming impact sites near sensitive locations. They were warned not to share social media footage without prior military approval. Now, this is important context. These kinds of restrictions are not unique to Israel. Similar measures exist across the Gulf region, in Ukraine, and in the Kashmir zone. They are typically justified as preventing real-time intelligence from reaching the opposing side. But here is what makes this situation stand out. A senior foreign media manager operating inside Israel, someone overseeing international news coverage, publicly admitted that their team had only a partial understanding of the reality on the ground, and that their coverage had not been truthful. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is a media professional acknowledging a gap between what is happening and what is being reported. Indian journalist Praj Mohan Singh was present during one of the largest recent response waves. He described it as a ghost standoff.
और जब बम फटता है ना तो वो देखता ही नहीं कि भारतीय है कि इजरायली है। सही बात। और आपके बगल में ना गोलियों से तो आप बच जाएंगे, राइट लेफ्ट चोट लगेगी, मिसाइल से आप बचेंगे नहीं।
Journalists could hear the sounds and sense the scale of events, but nothing could be shown. What we do know came from ordinary citizens recording on personal phones. In Rishon LeZion, apartment ceilings had partially collapsed. In Holon, fires spread across multiple houses. Across parts of Tel Aviv, power outages left neighborhoods in darkness. And then, one quiet image that said more than any broadcast could. An elderly woman in Bnei Brak, sitting in a wheelchair on the pavement. Her home had sustained damage. She was not crying. She simply muttered, "My house! My house!" A private citizen captured it. It never made international television. The Committee to Protect Journalists has now documented press restrictions across 12 countries in the region. 2 journalists have been confirmed lost since the escalation began. 6 detained. 8 media outlets structurally damaged. The picture reaching the outside world is, by design and by circumstance, deeply incomplete. Now let us look at the technological dimension, presented here purely as an educational briefing on publicly documented information. On March 15, 2026, Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced the use of a specific projectile for the very first time in this escalation. It is called the Sigil. The Sigil is a solid, fuel ballistic projectile. Here is what makes it significant. Its speed is approximately Mach 12, 12 times the speed of sound. From Iranian territory to central Israel, the estimated travel time is under 10 minutes. Standard interception systems require a minimum window to detect, calculate trajectory, and respond. Against a Mach 12 projectile, that window becomes effectively near zero. Then there is the solid fuel design. Traditional liquid fuel systems require preparation time before launch, a process that can sometimes be detected by satellite in advance. A solid fuel system is always ready. It can be moved on a mobile platform and launched with minimal warning. That makes it significantly harder to locate or preempt. Alongside the Sigil, Iran also deployed the Khorramshahr-4, nicknamed Super Heavy, because it carries a warhead of approximately 2 tons. One of the largest payload capacities in Iran's publicly documented inventory. On the broader scale, Iran claims to have launched around 700 ballistic projectiles and 600 unmanned aerial vehicles since February 28. Israel's own INSS Research Institute recorded lower figures, 571 and 399 respectively. The exact numbers are debated, but analysts say what matters more than the count is the pattern. Iran's approach follows a strategy of attrition. Each Iranian projectile costs tens of thousands of dollars. Each interception by Iron Dome costs between $100,000 and $200,000. Across hundreds of launches, that economic gap compounds significantly. Iran, after 4 decades under international sanctions, has developed one core institutional capability above all others: patience. And in a strategy of attrition, patience is the decisive asset. Of all the events in this escalation, one stands apart, not for its strategic significance, but for its human dimension and the scale of international response it triggered. The details here come entirely from verified investigations by the New York Times, CBC News, NPR, BBC Verify, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch. On February 28, 2026, the very first day of the escalation, the Shajara Tayyiba Girls' Primary School in Manab, southern Iran, was struck. Satellite imagery and eyewitness testimony indicate the school was hit multiple times in succession. Between 175 and 180 people were lost. The vast majority were children, girls between the ages of 7 and 12. The school's principal and several teachers were also among those who did not survive. Multiple independent investigations by CBC, NPR, the New York Times, and Bellingcat concluded that the strike was most likely carried out by United States forces. The basis: Manab's location in southern Iran fell within the area of operations assigned to the U.S. military, while Israeli operations were concentrated further north. On March 11, the New York Times reported the U.S. military's own preliminary internal findings. The strike appeared to be the result of a targeting error. U.S. Central Command had used outdated coordinates from the Defense Intelligence Agency, dating back to before 2013, when the building was still part of an adjacent military facility. By 2026, it had been a fully operational civilian school for more than a decade. Reports also raised questions about whether AI-assisted targeting tools played a role in approving the location as a legitimate target. The international response was swift and documented. UNESCO condemned it as a grave violation of humanitarian law on the day it occurred. The UN Secretary General followed. The 46 U.S. senators signed a formal letter demanding accountability. Over 120 members of Congress signed a separate letter to the Secretary of Defense. A UN investigation is currently ongoing. Italy's prime minister called it deeply troubling. China donated $200,000 in humanitarian assistance to the Iranian Red Crescent. Nobel Peace Laureate Malala Yousafzai said the news left her heartbroken and appalled. In Manab, on March 3, thousands gathered for a mass funeral. No political banners, no speeches. Just families carrying photographs of their children through the streets of a small southern city to a cemetery where more than 100 graves had been prepared. A professor at Tehran University noted something striking afterward. Even Iranian citizens who hold strong criticisms of their own government set those criticisms aside. There is, he said, a basic human instinct that overrides political affiliation, the protection of children. With all of this happening, the scale of the standoff, the international pressure, the economic disruption, why is there no resolution in sight? Analysts point to a multi-layered geopolitical deadlock. Let us break it down. Iran's foreign minister has been explicit. Iran is not seeking a ceasefire, not seeking negotiations. He framed this as doctrine, shaped by a specific historical lesson. The case most cited is Libya. In 2003, Libya dismantled its programs of concern and entered diplomatic normalization. 8 years later, its government was removed from power. The country remains unstable to this day. From Tehran's perspective, that pattern is a warning, not a model to follow. On the other side, there is a documented divergence within the opposing coalition. The United States is facing real domestic economic pressure. Oil prices have approached $100 per barrel, driven by disruption to shipping near the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy transit points. That creates pressure toward a faster resolution. Israel, however, has articulated a longer-term objective, one that cannot be resolved in days or weeks. Two allies, two timelines, two different definitions of success. That gap is one of the key reasons a coordinated diplomatic approach has not materialized. Meanwhile, Iran holds structural advantages for a prolonged standoff. A population of 85 million, a regional network embedded across multiple countries, and 4 decades of experience sustaining operations under international sanctions. The global community has responded. Italy, China, the UN, and major human rights organizations have all weighed in publicly. But none of these responses have yet produced a mechanism all parties are willing to enter. And so the standoff continues. Let us bring it all together. We examine the information gap, the documented restrictions shaping what the world sees. We analyze the technology, Iran's Sigil projectile, the attrition strategy, and why analysts are paying close attention. We covered the Minab incident, a documented humanitarian event now under active international investigation. And we mapped the geopolitical deadlock, diverging objectives, economic pressures, and strategic patience creating a standoff with no easy exit. One thread connects all 4. The most significant events in history are often the least covered in real time. The full picture rarely arrives on the day it happens. It arrives later, when investigations conclude, when documents surface, and when the pressure to manage information fades. That is why independent analysis matters. So tell me in the comments, is your country's media covering this in full? What perspective are you not seeing? If this kind of depth is what you are looking for, subscribe to GeoInsight. And if this video added value, a like helps more people find it. This situation is still developing. The next phase may be the most consequential yet, and we will be right here to break it down for you.